Welcome to the Rise Up podcast, where we explore stories of business leaders rising above the challenges and driving innovation. I'm really excited today to have a special guest joining us. It's Michael White, CEO of Fused Graphics. Michael, welcome to the Rise Up podcast.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm loving this pink checkered.
You know, just go over there, see Jeremy at HG Thrash. He does all my clothes, right?
Boom.
Just tells me what I need.
Nailed it.
Never have to think about it.
HG Thrash, another local.
That's right.
So I'd love to start with, are you a Lubbock native or did you migrate here I did?
So I was born in El Paso, Texas, right? Lived there till I think I was 7. And then my family moved here. My dad started a business here. So we moved here. So I, by and large, been here my whole life, right?
So which the high school are you an alumnus of? Coronado, Mustang man.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So my kids are going to Monterey. So we got a little in-house rivalry.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, exactly. And met your wife here?
Well, it did. Yeah. Funny story. My wife and I had gone to school. She's a year behind me in school, right? Went to elementary school, junior high school together, college, right? Just a year behind me the whole way. And never met her until a football tailgate about 16 years ago now.
Wow.
Right. So met her there at a tailgate, and we got to swapping stories, and had just been around each other our entire life, but never
connected the dots.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
It's
how
really,
life can be that way.
Yeah. So we know all the same people, we'll run into people and they knew her, they knew me, just kind of different, sides of the group a little bit, and are just shocked, I can't believe you two ended up together. Right. But
that's fun. I love the fascinating journeys of life and where it takes you.
Yeah.
And so kind of jumping into your own business journey, have you always been entrepreneurial? Kind of where did things start in the Fused Graphics story?
Yeah, I think I have, right? So my dad was. So I grew up in that kind of environment. My dad had always owned his own businesses. So that's kind of what I knew. And then I always like to joke around with everybody. I don't take authority very easily, right? So it's easier for me to.
Did you recognize that
early on, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't going to work well working for somebody else, right? So, I think, and just the challenges of it, I enjoy it. I tend to look at things from a pretty broad view, and kind of try to see how things can work and what can be done to do things differently. Which has really kind of just led me down that path.
Yep.
Right. So
I say this a lot. I think entrepreneurs see the puzzle pieces floating out in the eversphere out there. And you just kind of have this grit, this sense, this connection piece of like, okay, I think I can take these pieces, plug them together and look up and have something that the marketplace wants, consumer wants, clients want, et cetera.
Yeah. I think that it's, when I talk to entrepreneurs, I think everybody kind of has the same thing. Like you can go almost into any business, right?
Yes.
Any industry, anything. And to me, like it's hard for me to see a business that I think is just can't be done, right? It just hasn't been done right yet. So, I'm the guy that I walk into a restaurant and I see something going on. I'm thinking, well, if they would just change this and this, right? Like how much better would that be? And so, I think that's where your mind always is. I think that's entrepreneurs. Like you just see opportunity everywhere, and you're drawn to that opportunity and see if you're the person that can actually bring all that together to make it work.
I remember sometimes I would be on an escalator somewhere and my brain would just look at like every moving part of the escalator itself, the store that you're in, the mall. And I'm just going, there are businesses connected to everything I'm smelling, tasting, touching, observing. And how did they get started and what caused them to do that? I mean, just the curiosity questions just are almost endless.
They are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I find myself in that realm all the time, just trying to, really think about, and it's incredible when you go through everything in your life and realize that there's somebody behind each part of these things that you touch every day. Right. And I'm the same way as you. What was the driving force behind that? What made somebody think about this idea? What got them here? And, so I think those are all interesting stories. I love reading books. I love listening to people talk about, kind of what pushed them there and what got them there, and so I think that's another reason why I've kind of gone down this path is it's just what's interesting to me.
And I think as I've gotten older and certainly has some scars to show the challenges that you have to overcome, the pain points, you really, a lot of people just have to wake up every day, commit to a vision. It's not easy. push through the challenges. I remember hearing Mark Cuban one time, someone's like, oh man, you were an overnight success, sold your, Broadcom for $5 billion to Yahoo. And he goes, yeah, 20-year overnight success.
Sure. Yeah.
You didn't see my struggles.
Yeah, no one does, right? I think that's pretty typical. No one sees your struggles. I've got a saying with my team and something that I really believe in is, we always talk about, I'm not scared of mistakes, right? I'm scared of inactivity.
Yep.
Right. And so, I tell these guys all the time, like, listen, I'm fine with mistakes. I just want to make sure we make them.
That's good.
I want to see a giant life-size cutout of you all, right? Yep. We're going to make them at 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so I think that's those are the things that I think a lot of people don't see in the background is, being an entrepreneur, owning a business, running a business is a lot of failure.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the reality of
it.
It's, I think people tend to focus on the successes, see the successes, but I think anybody involved in it knows that we're failing a lot more often than we're succeeding.
Well, right? and especially in a world where we are rewarded for highlighting on the Instagram reel of life, the successes and the grinds and the hustles and look at this and that. And we even tried to cultivate in our own family because I was just convinced, especially in culture today, I think a lot of the younger generation is afraid of failure, is afraid. And it's this enormous pressure when they aren't sure what to do. They just put the brakes on and don't do anything.
That's right.
And so we did a thing around our kitchen table. Besides the, hey, what was a highlight of the day? Or, what was a low light? I would be like, where did you mess up today? Like, where was there just a big failure? Because number one, I'm okay with it. I don't want to wallow in it. I want to learn from it. I want to grow from it. But I want you to recognize it's part of life.
Yeah.
And that's almost the only way to grow.
Yeah. Failure only comes when you quit, right? When you give up. I think that's the thing that I really try to teach my kids and instill in them is that you've never lost until you quit, and if you quit, then that's where you can kind of hang it up and go, hey, what drove me to that, and evaluate, that loss in your life, maybe necessarily. But, I'm a big believer, same thing. I coach, little kids playing sports. Right. Yep. And one of the things we talk about all the time, and I had a coach tell me this when I was little, is, hey, we don't lose games. We run out of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think life's a lot that way.
Yep.
If you approach it that way from, I'm not losing, I'm just, this is part of the process to get to winning, And so I think that, redefining failure,
yes, that's good.
Is important. I mean, and redefining, understanding that you're going to have setbacks and you're going to move backwards and you're going to do these things. But as long as you just don't quit, find a new avenue, find a new path, find a new way to come up with a solution, but just don't quit.
Yeah.
And that's what we really, I think, where you're finding kids these days struggle, right? It's easier just to stop,
So let's kind of dive into the story of Fused Graphics and, what it is today. I assume it was not when it started. So give me kind of the origin of what has morphed and grown and evolved into what it is today. How did it get started?
Oh man. So let's go back to kind of summer 2019, right? And we talked a little bit about my brother earlier. So my father had passed away in 2017. My brother and I, both were at a place in our life where we thought we wanted to do something different professionally. And so we started looking for things to do. Okay. And we went down thousands of rabbit holes, right?
Yes.
From I think anybody that's gone through this and we laugh about it, I've got a family that tries to find, humor in everything.
Yes.
We went and we looked at funeral homes, like cemeteries after my dad passed away. I told my brother, I said, hey, if it costs that much,
I know.
right? I mean,
we need to be a part of that game there.
Like, let's get into this, right?
Yeah.
We went down that road for a little bit, and looked at all kinds of a body shop at one point in time. It's just crazy things, right? Just kind of scouring. And there was a print shop. There was a guy I know in a print shop here in Lubbock, had owned it for a long time. And he was he was doing some other things as well. And I think, print is just changed so much in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And so some of your owners that were kind of used to the old business model didn't really understand how do we get in front of the new business model. Right. So, got to talking to him and he was kind of, hey, I'm not sure I can hold on to this. Not sure I want to do this anymore. You interested in it? And I called my brother, and talked to him about it. And he had kind of, through his old, work. It kind of worked with print shops a little bit, kind of, and he, his first reaction to me was like, really, that's what we came up with. And so
let's go back to the funeral home idea.
yeah. It's like anything but this. Right. But we did it and we got into it. And funny enough, we started down that road. A little over a year later, he had some guys that he knew in Wichita Falls and had a print company. They were older. And he was just on the phone with them, catching up with them. Hey, how's everything going? And they said, what are you doing now? And he said, well, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, but I'm in partners in a print shop. Right. Yeah. And they were like, well, do you want another one?
Do you want one double?
Yeah. You want to do this again, and so, we did, that turned into, we bought another one in Wichita Falls. And then what Fuse Graphics Group is today, there was a company here in Lubbock a long time named Craftsman Printers. Been here 65 years, family owned company. And they were, they were kind of at the end of their journey. Right. And looking at options of getting out. And we got put in touch with them and started talking to them. And we, did an acquisition of that company. And kind of started working on that late 2022, got it done January 2023. And at that point in time, the different print shops operated as different entities and everything else. And I'm sure, as you understand, like that sounds like a good idea in practice sometimes becomes a real mess, right?
Yep, that's right.
So, we decided at that point in time, hey, let's put all this together, right? And just, put them all under one entity, and decided to call it Fused and started down that path. And it's been a great path. It's been really interesting. I laugh with everybody. I think the first few years that I would say we were in the printing business, right? So I went to a trade show in Las Vegas with my wife, I think late 2022, right before we did the Craftsman acquisition. And I told her, we were there and kind of going through everything. And it was my first kind of eye-opening moment.
Yep.
And I told her, I said, listen, we're not in the printing business.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
We're in the copy business.
Yeah.
And these people are in the printing business and we got to decide, do we want in the printing business or not?
Yeah.
Right. And so that, the printing business is it's a large industry, right? That I don't think I had any appreciation for, before I got into it. Didn't really understand it, but, we've done this. It's been really great. I think we're about 15 times the size we were in 2020. Yeah. Right. So it's been a lot of growth in a hurry, which, that's good. Also comes with its own challenges.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, a lot of sleepless nights. A lot of questions, I think I'm just everybody gets asked questions. If you're around me, just in my space, right, you're going to be answering questions because I just have them constantly.
Yeah.
So
kind of describe for maybe the public people listening to here, what are the different, because as you said it, we've seen an evolution and a change in advancement in terms of the ways that companies like Fuse Graphics can really help accelerate companies' exposure, marketing, print, et cetera. So what are the kind of the different ways when a client sits across from you and says, okay, here's what I want to do, or you tell me, what do you suggest? What does that conversation look like? What are the different ideas and tools and resources that Fused Graphics is really helping businesses with today?
Yeah, I think that what we focus on is trying to really, one thing that's different about us is every print company has their products, right? The things that they say, hey, this is what we do to help companies market. And me coming from a non-print background and realizing how valuable marketing dollars are and really understanding that you want to return on those marketing dollars, right? Yeah. So, we're really intent on listening a lot and trying to have conversations with our customers. Like, what are you looking for? What are we trying to accomplish here? Who is the audience? Really getting down to that, which makes a big difference in how we approach it, right? So, obviously you have your traditional things, your mail pieces, sending things out in the mail, and you have the things that maybe you give to clients, prospective clients that you send your team out with, right? And whether that's promotional items, swag products, we call them, or things like that, or brochures and capabilities that you have inside your industry that you're trying to share with them and teach them about, right? But I think one thing that's important to recognize is in all marketing, you have to have somewhat of a captive audience. Yeah. Right. Marketing, if you just throw your name out there everywhere and no one's interested in what you're selling, it doesn't do any good. Okay. So you've got to find your audience. Right. And if you don't have an audience currently, you got to find a way to create an audience. So, we kind of talk about the different ways to go about that. I tell this a lot to people. We talk about, everybody tells me, what do you think is really successful, right, in print? And I think this, it's kind of a surprising answer to people. Like I told you earlier, I think you have to have a captive audience. Okay. So, one thing that marketing does is if you're trying to sell me, a car today and I've got no interest in a vehicle, it doesn't matter what your sales pitch is, doesn't matter how great it is, anything else, right? I'm tuned out, right?
Yeah.
So, but if I'm thinking, I may be interested in a vehicle in the next month, 6 months, year, it's kind of on my brain and you hit me with something, you might be able to pull me in, right? Turn that lead into a sell, right? So we talk about all the time. I tell people kind of a door hanger story and everybody's like, door hangers, really? Is that where you're going? Okay. So door hangers to me are one of these things that I talk to people a lot about because it has 100% read rate.
Yep.
Okay. And I walk them through a story. You get home this afternoon, you drive up to drive by your front door, you see a door hanger on your front door, right? And automatically in your mind, you're thinking, I'm going to throw that thing in the trash. Got to go get it off the door. Get it in the trash can. Okay. But what do you do every time on the way to the trash can?
I have never not looked at it.
That's right.
Taking a little read and go, who was the guy that spent, 6 cents on, oh, wow, that's actually kind of interesting. I wonder if I could,
Yeah, that's right. Right. So now you've got this, that's what we're trying to accomplish when we look at marketing, right? We're trying to get our product in front of eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone that's going to read it. And one of my biggest, kind of fears for a customer is that we do something that we don't see anybody really read it, that we give them an opportunity to move on from it without paying any attention to it. Right. And so we're really careful, about what we talk to customers about, how we approach people, how they approach their audience. We're a big believer in trying to find things that kind of go in tandem with a relationship.
Yep.
Right. Print pieces up by themselves.
Yeah.
They can be very powerful, but at the end of the day, everybody wants a relationship.
Yeah.
So, we try to really work with companies to understand, if we do this, if we send out a mail piece, Josh, what is your next step?
Yeah.
Right. So what are we trying to convey in this mail piece that makes sense for the next step that you're going to take in this journey, right? With your potential customer. So, I think there's lots of ways to go after, people through print. And I think it's, when I first got into it, I think I was like a lot of people, print's dying.
Yeah.
Right. And not it's going to die. It's dead, and, I started doing a lot of research, and what we found out was, your top 4 purchasers of print media are, like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple.
Yeah.
Right. Your leading technology companies in the world are buying more print than anybody else.
Who have access to more digital, electronic, media, billboard space than anyone.
That's right. And so what it made me realize is, hey, print's not dying by any stretch, right? It's evolving.
Yeah.
Where we used to print, envelopes, to send, everybody's corresponding by mail, or, multi-part forms where hospitals were, jotting everything down and a pink copy went here and a white copy went there and a green copy went there, right? That stuff's online now, right? All that print is gone, and it's never coming back, and that's okay, but now it's marketing, right? So what we kind of tell everybody is, we're the print marketing arm that helps companies out, right? When you go to your marketing division and you say, okay, we need to get something printed, we need to get something on paper. That's where we come in, right? No longer kind of the day-to-day business operation printing that everybody was used to.
I don't know if it was something that I saw you reference, maybe in a LinkedIn article, or maybe it was associated with it, but it's almost like the pendulum has swung in some regards of like, we're almost so turned off by the amount of digital onslaught we get from any and everything, right? Yeah. That it's just, we almost tune out majority of it.
That's right.
That when something pretty and flashy and I can hold it and touch it, even if it's just for 10 seconds, I'm actually engaged.
That's right.
In that 10 seconds, as opposed to, I'm turning off the social, ad stream.
Yeah. So, I think you and I probably grew up around the same time, and you remember going to your mailbox and it was just full of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could remember early on in my business career, I go to my PO box and I wouldn't even make it out the post office. Right. I just stand there at the trash can and right. And so, that's what we did. And so then digital came along, right? Email campaigns, social media, and that really caught our eyes because we were tired of the onslaught of print media. Okay. And now you're dealing with kids, that are coming up that, I'd say anybody under the age of about 25, that's all they've got, right? Emails and social media. They've just been, absolutely overrun with it. But they've never received a piece of mail.
No.
Right. Ever. I mean, maybe a Christmas card from a grandmother, when they were 8, who knows, but very rarely have they actually opened anything that was addressed to them that, had any connection to it. So we've seen, we do a lot of work with higher education, and they're engaging kids a lot more now through print media, realizing these kids love it. They open up something that's neat. It goes up on their wall in their bedroom. They show everybody else, they hold on to it. Right. And I think that's where, print has a lot of value. We talk about a lot in our business, it's not just the initial, like I give you something through, in print media, and hand it to you, you may look at it for a minute then, and then set it aside, right? Maybe it's not got your attention right now. You're not in the right headspace for it. But then something happens 2 months later, right? And you think, oh, I want to go pick that back up and read that. That had something to do with that. It's a lot easier to do a lot of times with print than it is with something that just, spammed across your email.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so, I don't know about you when you get to the office in the morning, my first thing I do is I open up my inbox, right? Everything that I don't recognize, delete.
That's right. That's right.
So
that's right.
No one even has, we talk to people all the time. They're like, well, email campaigns are free, right? And they're not. There's a cost to, first off, someone has to design that, someone has to come up with it, right? But I always think an opportunity to engage your customer cost you something.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not always about the money you spend. It's about the opportunity you lost.
Yep.
And so if you're solely, and I think there's a place for, there's absolutely a place for digital, media, and absolutely a place, to engage your customers in that platform. But, just like anything else, too much of a, good thing's a bad thing. Right. So I think that if you really look at your marketing and you say, how do we evenly kind of go about this and engage people in different spaces at different times, those are the companies that we see are successful.
Well, right? And even the complementary fashion
Absolutely.
of where, maybe touch them in some kind of email, SMS campaign, but my gosh, what if they gave you that 10 seconds on a, if it's a business to business consumer type of touch, they saw that coming through their office. There's a higher likelihood to engage in some of the other forms.
Yeah. So, geofencing has been neat when it comes to like social media and print, right? Where the opportunity to kind of hit people in a certain location, with some social media at the moment, and then follow that up with something print related a few weeks later.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of that same thing we talked about. It's opening the eyes, creating an audience. So, I think that there's just a lot of ways to really utilize all the things that are going on now. Right. Yeah. And I think there's some print companies that do a fabulous job of that. There's some, like we've talked about, print it's kind of an arcade industry, right? There's some people that are bringing it. It's kind of like pushing a boulder up a mountain, but there's some guys that are really trying to push it into a new way of thinking, that are doing a really good job with it. And so I think as we see more of that, you're going to see more people really understand what print media can do for their companies and engage in it, but they just need to be taught.
Yeah.
They need to understand what it is that they're actually spending money on.
It's funny you mentioned going to the mail. My daughters, I've got a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old. They sometimes fight over who's going to go check the mail, right?
Yeah.
Because they're just like, oh, great, maybe I got something in the mail, and they're looking at something.
Yeah.
And it's like, that wasn't the case when I was growing up.
No, that was a chore you did when you were in trouble.
There's less for me to see. And so guess what happens? I spend a little more time staring at what does come through there.
That's right. Yeah. I think, the LinkedIn deal that we put up was something like, inboxes are full, mailboxes are empty type, feeling. And it's really true, right? You want to, we're big proponents and, you want to find a way to reach your audience in a time and a space where they can devote attention to you. Yep. Right. And the more you can be kind of alone there, with them, the better off you are.
So I'm going to ask you,
Yeah.
as a company who's grown, like you said, 15 times, 15x over the last several years, what has been the strategies and maybe the methods that have worked to help expose and broaden, Michael and the Fuse Graphics brand and the service that you guys are providing?
I think honestly, I give that a lot of thought because I'll be real honest with you. We've tried a lot of different things, right? And so
you're both performing a service and then sitting on the other side going, how do we?
Yeah, how do we do it, right? So I think we've given that a lot of thought. And I'll tell you, I think that one of the things is, we set extremely high standards as a team, right?
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon for us, maybe to around the office, maybe we don't feel great about where we're at the moment. And then to get 3 or 4 people that contact us like, hey, you guys are just absolutely killing it. And we love what you're doing for us. And it's amazing working with you. And the whole time we're sitting there kind of judging ourselves going, and we don't feel like we're what we should be, right? So I think it's that kind of relentless of setting standards. We're hyper focused on customers.
Yeah.
I found that in business, you find people that are really focused on their competitors or they're really focused on their customers.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
And so we try to, competitors will be what competitors will be.
Can't control them.
Can't control them. They're going to do what they're going to do. Right. You have good ones, you have bad ones, it's all over the board. Right. But, we really try to stay away from that conversation and stay focused on what our customers want and what they need and what we hear from them. And so, I've always believed in every business I've been in that, your customers tell the story, right? Who are you? What are you? Okay. And you can use words. You can tell everybody else what you think you are and what you believe you are, what you want to be. But at the end of the day, your customers tell you.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, and they tell you what you're worth too, right? Like we have a big saying in our shop, when we talk to everybody there, we make it clear to everyone that works there, you're not paid by Michael White.
Yeah.
Right. You're not paid by Fuse Graphics Group. You're paid by our customers.
That's right.
And they're going to tell us what we're worth. Right.
Which can be really sobering and really exciting.
It can be. That's right. That's right. It has the opportunity to move you both directions. But it's honest, and I think that's the biggest key in business is, are you willing to sit down and be honest with yourself about, hey, this is who we are today. And this is, so it's the success to us comes from, I think that's where we see it. We see that, and like I said, I think it's the being fearless and trying new things. It's one of our core values is to be fearless, same thing we talked about earlier. I believe that if you're going to be a leader in anything, you have to be willing to fail.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's all the stories about people that say, hey, I didn't fail. I came up with 300 ways to not do it right.
That's right.
Right. Okay. So, that's what we do. We come up with ways that maybe it doesn't work, but you find every time you learn something.
Yeah.
And I think that's for us, we talk about, we just want to get better every day. Right. So how do we do that? Well, you've got to take chances. You got to push the envelope. You got to, learn and a lot of times it comes with setbacks, but you just keep going and you keep learning. And I think that's been where, when we talk to our customer base, we talked about, hey, why us? Right. That's a big question.
It's a great question.
Why us?
Yep.
I mean, there are a lot of companies that do this well. I mean, honestly, there really are. And so when we talk to people, why us, that's usually the answer we get. Listen, we feel like you're engaged in what we're doing.
That's right.
We feel like that you hear us when we sit down and talk to you. We feel like that, you talk about us and not about you, those kind of answers. And I think it's that's what we found to be successful is that really being focused on our customers, right? Nonstop.
Yeah.
Everything that we do, we try to figure out how is that going to come across to our customer, right? Whether it's, I'm incredibly OCD. My staff will tell you this drives them crazy. The simple way that we write up tickets, for us, the first letter of every word has to be capitalized.
Yeah.
That's a thing with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Organized correctly, that we just do things, whether it's an email, whether it's an invoice, whatever it is. I want every interaction our customer has with us to be positive.
Yep.
Right.
I have a quote that is like one of my Josh-isms, and it's make it easy on the people that you want something from.
That's right.
I need my bank to work with me in a capital loan arrangement. I need to make it really easy on them to evaluate my situation, my financials, my business plan.
That's right.
I want a customer to engage with me. I need to make my email really simple for them to know what I want them to do. And it's amazing how complicated it is. People make it for me when they want me to help them with something.
Yeah. One of the quickest ways to get me to not do business with somebody is to make me jump through hoops.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
Not in a bad way, but everybody's busy,
yes.
right? I mean, the world that we live in now is so much busier than it was 4 years ago. Okay. So people have a finite amount of time with which to respond to you and engage with you. And if they can't do that in that time frame, it's not how much they like you. It's not how much they care about you. It's just, hey, I couldn't get to it.
Yeah. We look at a long email thread and I just literally, my brain goes, there might be something good with it. I don't have time for it.
That's right.
And I just disengage and move on.
That's right.
And so I love hearing the things that you're stressing because my brain's going, the things that you're stressing in terms of the customer attention and listening and engaging and caring, they really, I'm going to use the phrase, they aren't a direct financial cost. Like you're not going to look at a balance sheet or an income statement and go, that cost us a lot of money. Now it costs you your time and leadership. It costs you your training, your intentionality, but those aren't really direct line items. And we spent a lot of money on marketing. We just focused on something that had produced a lot of great fruit.
We do. And what I've found is once you can establish that relationship, that's where like our print marketing that we do really hits home with people.
Yep.
It's that, same old line, like, nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care.
That's right.
Right. So for us, once we've established a relationship with a customer, then everything that we get in front of them hits on some level.
Yeah.
Right. And it's because they know how much attention we're going to put into it. They know how much that we value them. And so when we send them something, and we're very particular, we've curated a way to engage our customers without just mass sending out things. Right. Yeah. So like we've got a way, like, your business is interested in these kind of print products. Right. Yeah. So when I give you something, I'm not going to hit you with every print product in the world. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to hit you with the things that you're interested in. And so, I think those are the things, like I said, once you get to know your customer, marketing changes.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And then it becomes so much easier. Now it's a conversation, and I think that's a dialogue you need to reach, and print media is just a form of dialogue.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a way to engage with people and talk. It's just another part of the conversation.
Yep.
Okay. But you got to know them before you can have that conversation.
That's so good. Yeah. So I'm going to transition here. Our business kind of emphasizes around the energy side of what's taking place. Lots of changes in the energy industry, costs and resiliency and power and so forth. So I always like to ask business leaders, it's not a top of the mind thought, but how much has the challenges of energy in Lubbock, we've had this deregulated challenge of picking contracts and cost of energy. How much have you seen that impact the print industry?
Quite a lot. Yeah. So we consume a lot of energy.
Yeah.
We operate, pretty heavy equipment.
Yeah.
And it runs all day, every day.
Yeah.
Right. So, we see the impact and it's something we evaluate on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
We evaluate, whether it's, hey, who is our energy provider? Yeah. Does that make sense anymore? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Is that where we need to be? What are other ways to create energy? What, is there new equipment that uses less energy?
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you have to look at that from all angles, right? There's no one angle that's going to get you where you need to be. So, but it's something that we look at constantly. I would say most print companies are, or at least should be.
Yeah.
If they're not, there's a lot of money going out the back door, right?
Well, I like to say, and I'm a former CPA, so I kind of look at the world through dollar signs, and it's like, if there's a line item that's got a dollar sign that just seems like it's hard to shrink, it's only growing and becoming a larger percentage of the overall budget. How do I address that in a meaningful way? And I think as a company, that's really what I call a solution-based. How do we drive solutions and savings in a complex, kind of uncertain world? Yeah. That's what we're trying to help companies with.
Yeah. And so especially, I think a lot of things that people don't understand about the print industry is I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine that's a contractor. We were talking about potentially a new space, right?
Yep.
And he was talking about, what do you need? What are your needs for this? And one thing he was blown away by is we have to control humidity and temperature really, I mean, it's really important. So, and we don't have a big degree of variance that we can get away with.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that takes a lot of energy when you start talking about trying to control, our current facility is right at 50,000 square feet.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep it within a few degrees of each other all day.
That's a lot of volume to control.
That's right. And humidity within, a couple of degrees, same thing. Right. And so it doesn't matter what you're doing at the time, adding humidity. Lubbock pretty much just adding humidity.
Yeah.
Other places deal with taking it out. We don't really think about that much, but adding humidity, but holding, whether you're trying to heat the building, cool the building, right. Either way, you're spending a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of neat ways to go about that.
That's
a
right.
lot of new solutions that weren't around 5 years ago.
That's right. Yeah. One of the fun things that we're rolling out, and maybe off air we'll chat about it, is we work with one of the energy providers in Texas that is addressing the energy challenges by installing these large backup commercial batteries on site next to customers' facilities, paying them to say, hey, can I be your energy provider, lower your cost, write you a check for thousands of dollars a year so I can have these backup batteries on your site. And you can use them if there's a power failure, but in the meantime, I'm going to use them, monetize them, manage energy in Texas grid, but you get paid for having them.
Sure.
No cost. You're going to pay me $10,000 a year for this. What's the catch?
Yeah. Well, it's crazy how much energy has evolved. I mean, it's kind of like our business. I mean, the whole model's different than what it was 15 years ago. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's not even the same conversation, like between solar and the ability to eventually sell energy back to the grid. Yeah. Right. I mean,
who knew you could own energy?
I didn't know you could own it. Yeah, exactly. Right. I think that was such a foreign concept. I remember, I want to say it was maybe 6-7 years ago, the first time anybody ever kind of told me that.
Yeah.
And I kind of did the oh my goodness, you're crazy. Right? This isn't really going to happen. No one's going to let me give them, no company's going to let me sell them energy back.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that it's neat to see, all the different solutions, and of course, I'm sure you go through this. You guys, I know you go about business a certain way, trying to be reputable and upstanding and doing what you do. And of course, you see all the people come in and you got to fight through that, right? Because everybody hears this, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be life changing, and we're going to do this and all these promises, and those are the same kind of some of the same kind of things we do with the print industry, right? It's like everybody rushes in to give these new solutions, but are they really committed to what it is?
That's right.
Right. And so it comes down to, do you do business with people that's, we had a conversation the other day. One conversation I had with a buddy of mine, and my attorney was redlining stuff, right? So there, it's his favorite thing to do.
That's right. That's how they get paid.
Right, For Christmas, we send them red pens. But they, just going through everything. No, don't do this. Don't do this. Right. And this as being a business owner, at some point in time, you got to kind of tell the attorney like, hey, we're going to do this.
Thank you for the risk avoidance you're providing for me.
That's right.
But the deal is now dead because of the red pen.
That's right. That's right. So nothing would ever get signed. If it was if attorneys had their way, right?
Yeah.
Nothing would ever move forward. And, I was talking, to a buddy of mine and attorney friend of ours, like, well, we're just trying to protect you from, there's people in this world that just do this, right? Just do business this way. And I looked at him and I said, so basically what you're saying is just don't do business with bad people.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah,
As long as we can just avoid those people, we're okay. And I think that's where, when you see the evolution of energy and things like that, it's the important thing is finding people that you can trust.
So Warren Buffett's business partner just passed away last year, Charlie Munger. Literally one of his 5 things is deal with good people. Don't deal with bad people.
That's right.
So, all right. I like to close it up with what we call our rapid fire sessions. We just ask 5 or 6 questions. First thing that hits your brain. How'd you get into print and design? I think you told us a little bit.
Accidental. I mean, very accidental, honestly. Yeah. I just kind of backed into it.
I love that. It's not strategic. Wanted to get it. No. It was kind of stumbled into it. That story's been told a lot.
Yeah.
A favorite project you've worked on?
Oh man, there's a lot. I think that, it's hard to name them. I think there's several projects, that we work on. I'm always drawn more to the nonprofits. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. We work with some really high powered companies that spend a lot of dollars on marketing, and enjoy doing their projects, love doing their projects. But when I see the impact, to a nonprofit that, hey, we kind of, man, we didn't really have the budget for this. We stretched to get there and we're so glad we did.
Yes.
Right. Those are the projects that make you feel good.
Yeah. We've had a really successful push in the energy space to help a lot of churches and nonprofits because, again, they're working on finite budgets.
Absolutely.
And they've got programs and outreach and community that literally we can't do X if our budget gets blown up by operating costs. And so
That's
to be able
right.
to serve them is
Yeah.
so rewarding.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What's one branding trend that you kind of wish would go away?
Oh man, there's a lot. Listen, I think that to me, one of the biggest things is I think that I'm tired of companies not being honest about who they are.
Yeah.
That's a trend. I think I see, we've got one of our core values is community and I've intentionally, up on the wall, it says, hey, community is just a word unless you live it.
That's right.
Right. I think that's the biggest brand thing is companies not being honest about who they are, trying to tell you what you want to hear instead of just telling you what we are. Right.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean just because maybe you're not a community minded business that you're a bad business.
No, that's right.
Right. It just means tell me who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's my biggest, I see things, company culture is a big one. That's one of the, man, I'm so worn out with company culture. Okay.
Culture's got this word. It's going to swing the opposite direction on the spectrum.
It is.
And you're not going to be able to use it anymore.
I know. So like now we see culture all the time. Like they think, to me, I see all these things. Like I see people who say culture is, we had a pizza party and hung out with our staff this afternoon and this is our company culture. Right. And I think those things are great to do to your staff, but I've also wondered, like, if you have to put it on social media every time you did it, is it really your culture?
That's right.
Or is it your marketing?
Yeah.
Right. Is it you telling people this way, what you want them to believe about you? And we talk a lot about in our company, our culture is excellence, right? The things we do as a team to get closer to one another, to build our team. Those are not something we usually share with everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. That's for us,
Yeah.
So I think those are the two things. Like I wish companies would be a little bit more honest about who they are. That's the biggest branding thing I'd like to see.
All right. Last two questions. What do you do to recharge outside of the work setting?
Oh man, kids,
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
Like I'd be blown away. Probably wasn't the guy, when I was 25 that thought that I would just love being a dad.
Yeah.
Right. But just seeing the world through your kids' eyes, and the fun, the energy, the innocence of it all.
Yep.
It's really, don't get me wrong. I love to play golf. I love to fish.
Yeah.
But nothing gives me more than just being with my kids.
You'd rather do it with him though.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Right?
I grew up playing golf my whole life. But now it's like, the boys want to go play golf on a Saturday. It's 5 hours. And I'm like, love golf, love you guys. But honestly, I want to hang with my family.
That's right.
Yeah. My daughter comes join me, maybe then.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and it's not, listen, I mean, it's just, like I said, completely shocked me, blew me away.
Yeah.
Didn't expect that coming, but just, I just can't wait to get home in the day, see them, they're
It puts
awesome.
the challenges in life, puts the problems in life in perspective too.
Absolutely.
Like
Right.
I remember when my girls were really young and the stress of the day, you just feeling it. And I just tell myself, go walk in their room when they're asleep and just go look at how beautiful and innocent. And just that right there is way more important than whatever crazy stuff's happening back here.
Yeah. And kids have a great way of like, it's, you get so caught up as an adult in the things you think matter.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
That you really believe matter. And I've had these conversations with my son at times. Like he's talking to me, maybe I'm not quite hearing him. And he's like, hey dad, and I'm like, sorry, bud, I'm thinking about this. I got this and everything. And his responses usually are kind of in this way of like, why are you worried about
I know.
that?
That's
Right. And when I stop for long enough, I'm like,
He's got
why
a point.
am I worried
That's so
about
good.
that? Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's just great what your family gives you, and the family dynamic, a good wife, kids at home. I mean, just amazing what they're able to do on a daily basis to get you back moving for the next day. Right?
That's good. Well, speaking of, you referenced it, I always like to ask the last question. What would you tell your 24, 25-year-old self? You could go back and rewind the clock and plant some wisdom there.
Man, I think just being true to who you are.
Yeah.
I think I spent so much of my youth trying to be what I thought everybody else wanted me to be.
Yeah.
What I thought.
Wore yourself out.
Yeah. And I didn't realize the toll that it took on me at the time. It just, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Trying to always be what you think someone else wants you to be. And my wife really, I mean, more ways than one, right? My wife saved me. I think a lot of us could tell that story.
Yeah.
But the one thing my wife taught me more than anything was contentment.
Yeah.
You know,
That's good.
And so once I became content and just true to who I was and was okay with that, everything else opened up.
Yeah.
Right. It was like everything made sense for the first time.
So we could dive into that topic right there probably the next time, because that's life changing.
It is.
It is life changing, especially in a world where so many young people, really of all ages, are so assaulted with the social media of do more, approve, what's being put out there. It just, the pressure. I mean, I felt it 20 years ago, but even today.
I can't imagine what our kids go through. Yeah. I mean, I'm try to be very protective of my children and social media, my children and things. And even, it doesn't matter how protective you are, right? It's
just
world.
there. Yeah.
And they've got to make those decisions too. They've got to decide how they're going to handle it. But the constant assault of you need more, do more, be more, is really hard, and what I try to tell my kids every day is, you're perfect the way you are, right? God made you the way you are. You're perfect this way. And all you got to do on a daily basis is just find a way to be in tune with yourself and be happy with yourself. Right. If you are, then you're doing it the right way. Yeah. Right.
That's great. Well, how can people connect with you personally, professionally, through Fused?
I mean, any way you want to, right? So we pride ourselves. We talk about it all the time. We've got our website, obviously fusegraphics.com, and but we want to meet customers where they're at. Give us a call, send us an email.
Yep.
Get online, get on social media, tell us you want to send somebody by your office, show up at the office and have a cup of coffee. We don't care. Right. Yeah. We understand that everybody kind of has their different ways. They like to, conversate and have dialogue, and we just want to meet you wherever you're at. So we try to make it easy on everybody, and find different ways for them to get in front of us. And obviously we're out in the community. Listen, we try to be very, if there's something going on with a nonprofit, you're probably going to see us there. Yeah. We try to be involved in different things and get out and be around people. It's just, I love people, and so I want to be around them all the time. So we really, try to leave the office as much as we can and get out and see everybody.
That's good. Yeah. Well, Michael White, Fused Graphics, this has been really good. There's a lot of gold in this thing, and might have to roll it over one more time. But thanks again for joining us at the Rise Up podcast. If you want to check us out at Rise Energy, at Get Rise Energy, our social media website, getriseenergy.com. Would love to come alongside, serve you, troubleshoot stuff. Until then, rise up your own business, your own life, make it a good one.